Hi everyone, I'm Swift, and today I'm going to be talking about how Josh Gad wants to make a live-action Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hunchback's problematic depiction of the Romani people, and why this movie should absolutely not get a live-action remake unless they rework it entirely from the ground up. In my previous video, The Problem with the Hunchback of Notre Dame, I already covered a lot of just what makes its story so inherently racist, so I'm going to try to be brief and keep it Disney adaptation specific. Full disclosure, I am of Romani ancestry, but was not raised in the culture. My feelings do not speak for all Romani peoples and are based primarily on the extensive research I have done in an attempt to learn my heritage. Additionally, it must be noted that gypsy is a slur term given by non-Roma people and will only be used in this video for clarification purposes or if the reference source material uses the term, such as in both the film and novel versions of Hunchback. But any other time, and I will be using either the terms Romani or Roma. That being said, spoilers ahead for Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, real-life history, and Josh Gad's Instagram feed. Gosh dang it, Josh Gad, I thought this project was completely dead. I think it honestly might be, but you never can be too sure. I wasn't going to make a video on the possible live-action Hunchback remake because I honestly thought that it was safely not going to happen, until of course it had to go viral again thanks to both a very popular fan casting and Josh Gad himself replying to it. Let me start from the beginning. Back in 2019, Josh Gad, the man most known for voicing the talking snowman Olaf from the Frozen franchise, announced that he was going to be making a live-action Hunchback remake, and that he would be playing the titular Hunchback Quasimodo. Because that sounds like a good idea. Well, COVID happened, and the unfortunate Mulan remake, and all of the news on the film dried up. Every now and then, a rumor would pop up about the movie, but it would pretty quickly be disproven, or just be a vague, Disney's working on it. Honest. It would never be enough to get people excited, because, duh. Then, in March 2023, a fan-made poster came up, made by... I honestly have no idea. I tried looking for the source of the image, but at this point it's been reposted to hell and back, and fooled a lot of people, and so whoever did it, good job. Graphic design is truly in your skill set. The fake poster gave the supposed release date of 2025 and looked pretty legit at first glance. It has an updated version of the original movie's logo over a fiery background alluding to the end of the movie. That's pretty similar to simplistic teaser posters Disney tends to go for with its live-action adaptations. I even fell for it for a hot second. Then I thought about the cast for more than 2 seconds. Like, Peter Capaldi could make a believable Frollo, and unlike a number of these actors, he can definitely sing. But Gal Gadot? Presumably as Esmeralda, I'm guessing? Gal is a great actress, but at 38, she is way too old for this role. Then there's the fact that she and many of the other actors are currently working on other very big projects. And again, can't sing on the level required for one of Disney's greatest soundtracks of all time. But I'm going on a tangent. The point is, the fan cast fooled a lot of people, and even made it all the way to Josh Gad himself's Instagram feed, where he reposted the poster with the following caption. Wow, this spread quickly. Shrug emoji, bell, bell, bell. Well, okay, for the record, this is not real. This is a fan cast. I was just responding to it. Love that you guys all want this. We do too. The script is one of the best I've read, and hopefully the powers that be will see this love and let us make this live-action adaptation the original animated film deserves. But for now, again, this is just a fan cast. Apparently he'd had a different caption before, but replaced it, and whatever that said before has been lost to the internet. My personal theory is that Josh reposted the poster in order to drum up interest in the film and make Disney see that the people want it, especially since he apparently didn't say it was a fan cast originally. How successful that tactic is remains to be seen. What I can say is that it's still circling the internet because it took a few months to make its way over to me. Like, I'd seen the fake poster back in March, but I only just found out about the Josh Gad comment angle. And there are still plenty of people who think it's real. What I can say is it tells us that the film is currently just a script, and probably isn't very far into production, if at all. This is a good thing, because this means that if Disney is going to make this movie, which they shouldn't, then they can at least try to do so in a way that isn't a giant middle finger to the Roma people, like the original one. In case you weren't aware, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know, because this is a place where education has failed a lot of us, the gypsies, pictured in the film, are caricatures of the very real Romani people. The Romani are historically nomadic peoples of Indian origin. The TLDR version of our history is that roughly 1,000 years ago they were forced to leave India for unknown reasons and traveled westward where they faced immense discrimination. They weren't Christian or Muslim, and so they were met with suspicion basically everywhere. Because of their inability to settle down, they took on jobs that were mobile, such as fortune-telling, entertaining, or horse-selling. Many cities banned their entry, or wouldn't allow them to work, and so they moved from place to place. In Romania, they were kept as slaves. In some places, they could be physically branded. Their children were stolen from them and assimilated into mainstream culture. They are not the free-spirited wanderers or magic fortune-tellers that fiction has led you to believe. They are the victims of extreme prejudice who adapted to survive. That racism continues into modern times, even as most modern Roma are no longer nomadic. The Roma were among those the Nazi Party committed mass genocide against, the majority of which never even made it to the Holocaust camps, because they were gunned down in their homes. After the war, they faced further discrimination. The German government established that the former government had been taking action against a criminal group, and that the mass killings of the Romani were not done as an act of ethnic cleansing. It wasn't until 1979 that the German government recognized the acts by the Nazis as being racially motivated, and made reparations. Today, the Roma struggle for recognition in the UN, and some may choose to hide their ancestry entirely in order to avoid discrimination. My great-grandmother's family were horse sellers who also worked migrant jobs in hotels up and down the English coast. They struggled to keep their family together, and many of them immigrated to America to avoid prejudice. My great-grandmother chose to pass as English so that her children could grow up without fear. Moreover, the word gypsy, that is commonly attributed to the Roma, actually goes back to a misconception that they were Egyptian due to their dark skin, compared to calling Native Americans Indians. It's not a positive word, and it comes with a lot of negative connotations and baggage. Just consider the word gypped, and how it means to be ripped off. It's a tragic history of misunderstanding and prejudice, and it is only furthered by the inability of the Romani to represent their own identity or to tell their own story. One of the greatest tragedies is that this misinformation is not limited to outsiders. Many Romanis don't know their own story. Due to the lack of franchise over their own identity, the ununified nature of the people, and lack of educational opportunities, Romani peoples have not been able to control the narrative about their own people. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of the biggest perpetrators of the disenfranchisement of the Roma people in fictional media. Because despite having an anti-racism message at the core of its story, the original Hunchback of Notre Dame is a wildly racist film. There wasn't a single Roma consultant on that movie. Did you know that for the original Hunchback movie, multiple Romani groups reached out to Disney asking that they be properly represented, but were ignored? As reported by Ian Hancock, contemporary Romani scholar and advocate, the producers didn't respond to a single request for fairness and accuracy from Romani organizations, at least 6 of which wrote to them while the films were still in production. And yet you'll see the movie praised for its handling of racism. It's literally the definition of performative activism. But Swift, surely it isn't that racist? What's racist about it even? And even if the activism was performative, it being there's a good thing, right? Yes and no. The film recognizes that Esmeralda and her people are discriminated against, but fails to acknowledge why. It uses a blanket, they're different style reasoning, and in doing so falls into a lot of racist pitfalls, in large part because it relies on stereotypes rather than research to characterize its Roma. Let's run this movie through some sort of racism litmus test. In general, the most common anti-Romani stereotypes that you'll see are as follows. They are untrustworthy, exotic, inherently sexual or dangerous. They are wandering, unskilled vagrants. They are thieves and conmen who, for some reason, steal children. They have mystical or magical powers, but are somehow also simple-minded and dirty, and are, of course, irredeemably wicked. Now let's take a look at Disney's Hunchback. The gypsies in Disney's Hunchback are literal thieves living in the catacombs. The very first thing they try to do is hang Quasi and Phoebus. Apart from Esmeralda and Quasimodo's mother, they are all drawn as ugly caricatures with big noses, and many of them wear rags. The so-called Court of Miracles in the catacombs has a mystical sanctuary angle and can only be found by following a cryptic amulet necklace map, and is entered through a literal grave. The catacombs wouldn't even exist for hundreds of years and are literally a giant mass grave that was created because Paris's graveyards were overflowing. Ew! That pretty quickly covers conmen, thieves, dangerous, mystical, and dirty. I'd even push simple-minded, because who's stupid enough to hang the captain of the guard as a group of people who are trying not to get on the bad side of the law? They didn't know he'd just been fired, and even then, that's still murder! Esmeralda herself covers a lot of the rest. She bemoans her inability to make cool figurines like Quasi can, saying, "If I could do this, then you wouldn't find me dancing in the streets." This simultaneously feeds into the skillless gypsy stereotype and places disdain on her reliance on portable professions. when in actuality, she can't make a living because in the real world, she literally couldn't even live in the city, much less get a job there. Esmeralda has another uncomfortable line when she says that gypsies don't do well inside stone walls, which is a direct callback to Frollo saying it earlier. Only she doesn't condemn the concept and seems to mean it, which ignores the reason why her people are nomadic, implying it's a lifestyle or cultural choice. It panders to the idea that she must be free-spirited and wild. And she is obviously sexual and exotically so, which is obviously inescapable if Disney wants to keep even some semblance of the original novel's plot. However, they go pretty far. Her red dancing dress is skin-tight, and she literally pole dances on one of the guards' lances rather than doing, an actual Roma dance. You'd have to be pretty naive to say that only Frollo sexualizes her, or that exoticism doesn't play into her beauty. In the making of Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, a short film released alongside the movie, they explain that Esmeralda is described in Victor Hugo's novel as beautiful, fiery, independent, desirable, and a dream come true, with an unsettling emphasis on her being desirable. In the same video, they explain that she is voiced by Demi Moore, who is further described to be desirable and even typecast for the role, Moore having played an exotic dancer in the past. And to top it all off, she uses magical tricks to escape Frollo's guards in a smoke and mirrors kind of way, reads Quasi's palm, and is the one who gives Quasi the cryptic magic necklace rather than just giving the poor guy directions. Which, again, magic Roma. I will admit that the palm reading scene is super cute, though. Esmeralda is literally the poster child for the sexy, exotic Roma. Like, she's the literal trope starter. What all this means is that the only markers we are missing from the Disney movie is child theft and irredeemable wickedness, both of which feature in the original novel version. Because, by the way, in the original novel version, Esmeralda was a French baby who was kidnapped by the Roma. So at least Disney fixed one really, really bad thing. But then, despite ditching the baby napping, they still couldn't even fully commit to her being a woman of color with her design. Those bright green eyes? Yeah, no. They did that to make her even more exotic and unusual. And before someone sends me another picture of Rihanna, she's not Roma. And most likely her eyes are the result of either a spontaneous genetic mutation or from recessive genes resulting from white ancestry somewhere on both sides of her family. Comparing her to Esmeralda is apples to oranges. Green eyes are among the rarest eye colors in the world. A whopping 2% of people have them, and they are unusual even among racially white individuals. For instance, my Irish mother is the only one of her 6 siblings who has them, and only one of my cousins has them. And before you say, oh, well, she has green eyes because Esmeralda means emerald, in the book it's because she wore a fake emerald necklace. Don't feed into that annoying trope that women of color in fiction have to have an unusual, typically white feature to be seen as beautiful. Give us more Tianas and Moanas and less Esmeraldas and Storms. Let kids actually see themselves in their heroes and not impossible beauty standards. The fact of the matter is they gave Esmeralda green eyes to make her look sexier and to make her stand out as more unusually beautiful. And it's pretty lame of them. Sorry for the mini rant, but it was a common comment on my last video and I wanted to address it. Which finally brings us back to the matter of the remake. As we all know, Disney is currently en route to remake as many Renaissance-era animated films as humanly possible, and so unless they change gears, it's probably just a matter of time before Hunchback gets the CGI gargoyle treatment. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the idea. Mostly because I don't trust Disney to do due diligence by the Romani people, but also because having a comedic actor like Josh Gad playing such a serious role in such a serious movie just sounds like a recipe for disaster. Like, it was kind of funny because in articles that were positive about the remake, you'll see writers struggling with what movie to say Josh Gad is known for. That's because if they say he's known for Olaf, people will go, oh no, he can't play Quasimodo. Most of his other movies are total flops, so they usually seem to settle for live-action LeFou from The Beauty and the Beast, which is still a comedic role. Naturally, there are actors who can dance between serious and comedic roles without a problem, but to my knowledge, Josh Gad has really only done comedic roles. And I don't think it takes a genius to say it might not be a good idea to have the slapstick comedy man play a disabled victim of racism in a story about religion, abuse, and lust. Given that he also was in that truly awful Artemis Fowl movie, I can't help but be skeptical of this supposedly amazing script. And even if the script is as amazing as he claims it is, who wrote it? Were any Romani consultants brought on during its creation? Are any going to be brought in once the film starts production? Or is this going to be another piece of performative blah, only with bad singing and CGI sets? A lot of what made the original Hunchback good was the visuals and the music, both of which tend to suffer during these live-action remakes. I have a wish list of things I would personally like to see in a live-action remake of Hunchback, if it's going to happen. 1. There absolutely must be a Roma consultant on staff, and preferably multiple. 2. Esmeralda, Clopin, and Quasimodo should, if possible, be played by people who are Roma. I'm not under any illusion that that isn't a tall order. We are a rare ethnic group, and obviously finding someone who can sing on the level required for these roles is hard enough as it is. Personally, I would allow the inclusion of other traveler groups as their experiences are similar to that of the Roma and it widens the casting pool a little. 3. I would like to see the inclusion of the Romani language, like have the Roma characters speak it to each other but then speak English to the other characters. 4. It would be silly and historically inaccurate to completely eliminate the word gypsy, but it can be used as a teaching moment. What I would do is have gypsy only be used by non-Roma characters, and then when Phoebus learns from Esmeralda more about her people, he uses the word Romani instead. 5. Remove the catacombs and rework that entire scene. Holy shit. 6. Esmeralda rework. Be more considerate with her dialogue. Have her do an actual Roma dance. Have her wear actual Roma clothes. Maybe stop emphasizing how desirable she is for 10 minutes. I'm sure some people would feel that these simple requests will somehow make the movie woke or blemish it somehow, especially when it comes to any changes done to Esmeralda herself. If that's the kind of thoughts you're thinking, stop and consider how you would feel if your ethnic group was referred to the entire time by a slur term, and had all of its bad stereotypes featured as the normal traits for your ethnicity. And then you also find out that members of your group were ignored by the writing staff who were just using the cool aesthetics of your group to make money. Pretty lousy, huh? I'm pretty sure that this wish list is a pipe dream, and if anything, the best we can hope for is maybe a consultant and some unknown actress for Esmeralda, with big-name celebrities who've never sung before for everyone else. Because these remakes aren't even about improving on the original idea or making amends where needed. They're about milking the nostalgia cow until it finally dries up. And sure, some of them have been fun or enjoyable. Personally, I really like Cinderella and the Jungle Book. But dang, are some of these others just sad imitations of their original counterparts. And I am pretty sure Hunchback is destined for mediocrity if it is made. But hopefully it at least won't be racist mediocrity? I doubt it. Overall, Hunchback has been a thorn in the Romani people's side since it was first written almost 200 years ago. I really don't want this movie to be made. It's just a bad idea all around. If Josh Gad really wants to make a Hunchback movie, he can make one of those funny little Olaf recap shorts of it. I'll watch that. Now, if you're interested, please check out my other video on Hunchback where I go into more detail on its issues of Romani representation and also issues found in other Disney media. And for my longtime followers, in case you were wondering, my thesis is done. I graduated. I have a master's, and that means video making is back on track. Currently, Fox and I are hard at work on 4 separate videos. One on Anastasia, one on Tales of Eternia, and 2 that are a bit of a surprise, but here's your clue for each. I'm also putting together a separate channel where I will talk exclusively about history, anthropology, and culture. Looking forward to seeing you all again. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.